Welcome to BW Businessworld. Today I have with me Ambassador Brendan Ward from the Embassy of Ireland to India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and the Maldives. Thank you for joining me today, Mr. Ward. My first question to you is, Ireland is obviously a big destination for Indian students and students from all around the world. Can you tell us in your own words, what makes Ireland universities as well as the country an ideal destination for students?
Yes, it is a popular destination. There are students from around 120 different countries studying at Irish universities and colleges at the moment, and around 5,000 Indian students travel to Ireland each year to undertake studies, usually at the master's or doctoral levels. A number of factors make it an attractive destination. Obviously, it is a country where English is the main and working language. It's also simply the fact that a large number of other international students make it their preferred destination, means that there is a broad range of cultures, that it's easy to integrate. Also, of course, the fact that Ireland is part of the European Union means that it is part of the European experience, being a student in Ireland. And the fact that there are extensive job opportunities for Indian graduates, including a 2-year working visa, which allows them to build work experience with some of the top international companies, given that all 10 of the largest ICT companies in the world have their Europe, North Africa, and Middle East headquarters in Ireland. So there's a lot to offer.
Absolutely, and Indians are always looking for that kind of opportunity. But let me also ask you, what makes Indian students ideal candidates for higher education in studying in Ireland?
Well, again, almost all Indian students who'd be pursuing graduate courses abroad will have done their undergraduate degree through the medium of the English language. Also, of course, our education systems, which both largely derive from the classical British model, are very compatible. So there's no great culture shock going from an Indian university to an Irish university, except, of course, that the Irish university will be very much smaller than the average Indian university. We signed a memorandum of understanding with Delhi University last March, and I was astonished to discover that it had 700,000 students. I think the largest university in Ireland, University College Dublin, has under 30,000 students.
I think that kind of adds to the appeal of studying abroad too, getting those two different experiences.
Very much so, yes. There is that touch of contrast as well as the similarity and the shared educational background.
Absolutely. City sides are like, when we say Delhi as a city and when you think of Irish cities, those also mean completely different things. But let me ask you a little bit more about this visa. You did mention there's also the work option that is available for students. But how is the visa requirements for students going to Ireland maybe different from other countries?
They're not really different. The students are required to provide a certain amount of documentation. The basics are obviously their Indian qualifications, an offer of a place at an Irish university or college, evidence of their financial support, and general evidence of good character. It's a fairly straightforward process. Obviously, there is a peak in July, August when students are hoping to travel to take up their courses. So we do urge people to get their applications in early, as soon as they can put the documentation together. But as a general rule, we process student visa applications in about 4 weeks. So if you get your application in early July, you will be in very good time to take up your course in Ireland at the end of August, beginning of September. Assuming, of course, you have all your documents in order and correct.
Right. No, that's great advice to actually put in there. I think that's one of the biggest concerns, that is your visa going to come in on time, because you have to book your flights also accordingly.
Yeah, well, I mean, this year, the largest ever number of Indian students travel to Ireland. But we had the staff in the visa office here at the embassy working overtime in the evenings, working on Saturdays and Sundays. And I'm happy to say that every student traveling to Ireland for a course this last September received their visa on time.
Yes, I think we also have the highest number of students in general going abroad this year compared to the last 5 years, if the data is correct.
Well, after the pandemic, a lot of people, it's not just students, but lots of people want to travel, want to get into the outside world. This was actually, 22 was our busiest ever year for visas. Just under 50,000 were issued to Indians. That's the busiest any Irish visa office in the world has ever been. But we're just managing to cope.
So going back to work opportunities too, what kind of transition is there between a student visa to a work visa for students who have already gone to Ireland to study?
Well, an important aspect, of course, for students is that they are also allowed to work part-time while they are studying in Ireland to supplement their income or pay for extras. And it is possible for students to take part-time jobs up to 20 hours a week in Dublin or other major cities around Ireland, and up to 40 hours a week during academic vacations. Then when they graduate, they can obtain this visa, which allows them to work for 2 years in Ireland for a company there. It's a fairly easy transition, and all of the universities and colleges have their careers offices, which will help with this. Also, of course, other Indian students who have studied and are now working in Ireland tend to be pretty helpful.
All right. Can you also tell me a little bit about, Ireland is obviously going through an economic boom right now. Can you tell me which sectors or which markets in Ireland are you seeing the most demand for in terms of skilled workers?
Yeah, Ireland is, we are fortunate in that we are going through something of an economic boom. The Irish economy will be the fastest growing in the European Union in 2023, growing at almost the same level as the Indian economy. There is demand for workers across all sectors. Our unemployment level is just over 4%, which in economic terms is full employment. So the sectors in which Indian students tend to concentrate are areas like ICT, business, finance, and in all of those areas there is demand for workers. And of course the thing is, as I say, many of the major international companies are headquartered in Ireland, so that if young graduates perform well, and most Indian graduates do perform pretty well, there are opportunities on a global level with some of these companies.
Yeah, and can you also tell me about what sectors you're seeing the most growth in right now?
ICT remains one of the strongest and fastest growing sectors. Some of the major companies are rationalizing their workforces globally, but in Ireland it's still very much a growth area. Medical and pharmaceutical sectors are also very rapidly growing. They're also both very important in the Irish economy. And the medical devices industry is growing rapidly as well. So there are opportunities for graduates in all areas of science, technology, engineering, medicine, these areas. We also have Indian students who take their degrees in the humanities, and most of them also find work in related areas.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. Keeping up with the Indian news, there's a lot going on in the education sector in India too. Most recently, our Prime Minister has announced, inviting foreign universities to open campuses here. Are there any discussions with Ireland for the same, or is this something that Irish universities, do you think, would be interested in?
Well, at the moment, Irish universities and colleges have around 21 cooperation agreements with Indian universities. These include things like joint degree courses, exchanges of staff, joint research programs, that kind of thing. So far, there's been no discussion on the establishment of campuses in India, and very few Irish universities have campuses overseas.
That makes sense. But now that we're with the NAP 2020 also kind of, encouraging these kinds of international collaborations, can you tell me a little bit more about what kind of other exchange programs? Do you also see Irish students maybe coming to India or Indian universities more?
Well, we're trying to encourage Irish students to come here, and the Indian universities are very open to that. Most of the cooperation agreements provide for that possibility. But I'd have to be honest and say that up to now, we have really only seen students in areas like archaeology, classical Sanskrit, Indian history. There is a fair bit of study in some of the universities here on the parallels between Irish and Indian history during our respective independence struggles, and that is attracting a certain number of students. But I don't think we will see very large numbers. And of course, given, I think there are over 20 million students in the Indian university system, even a few thousand Irish students would simply disappear in that mass.
Definitely, we are a very large student body, a lot of students, and it's difficult to also, it's very competitive also on that front.
Yeah.
So my final question to you is, you have already mentioned the kind of trends we're already seeing, but going forward, what programs or what kind of job opportunities do you think is going to bring the most attention to Ireland?
Well, we would expect that the principal categories today, which are ICT, pharma, life sciences, bio devices, finance, not just banking, but other areas such as, for example, aircraft leasing, where Ireland is the world's leading centre, that all of these will continue to grow. We're also, of course, looking at other areas. One with which we're looking at Indian firms is future mobility, the development of autonomous transport, road systems, traffic management systems, this sort of thing. Also, of course, autonomous logistical programs. All of these will be quite important. They're an interesting developing area. Obviously, renewable energy, where India has taken something of a lead and is a bit of a global player, will also be areas of interest for us. And of course, environmental science generally and the management of environmental change will be very important sectors, both for us and for India.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us and also what you believe will be the future of Indian and Irish education relationships. And thank you for joining me here today for this discussion. We hope to hear so much more from Ireland and from you too.
Thank you very much.